Thanks everyone for joining me today. My name is Andrew Luong. I'm a Chrome customer engineer at Google. Been with Google for over 10 years. First started kind of in end user computing, deploying Windows, Macs, and Linux to a bunch of folks at Google. And so I got a lot of experience. I got a lot of respect for IT admins. I work with them every day. And so today we're really going to have a conversation with everybody about some of the Google, some of the new things that we're doing at Google to help you transition to the cloud, specifically starting with Chrome browser, some Chrome OS device management, but hopefully sometime at the end to take some questions. I felt like this is a really great place to start of kind of, bringing it back all the way to 2008. We didn't even have Chrome browser when we were at Google at this time. We're starting to launch it all, really because, Google, we're doing a lot of web services, right? We want to make sure things are fast and secure, but the browsers at that time, they couldn't keep up, right? We were using Firefox and Mozilla and all these different IE, right? And so Google's decided to do some 10x thinking, saying, hey, why don't we build a browser that's going to make sure it's going to be fast and secure, it's going to be future-proof and modernize kind of the web applications. And so we started investing in that. We launched Chrome browser. Now today we have over 1 billion users on Chrome browser, right? Who uses Chrome browser in the audience here today? Great. So another question is, who manages Chrome browser? A couple of hands here. So we'll talk more about management. How do you do that at scale? How folks that I work with in the enterprise space are doing that as well. But there's been a lot of investments over the past few years with Google in terms of making sure the internet is accessible to everyone. So we're investing in making sure that there's high-speed internet. So with Chrome browser being a great browser, lots of connectivity options, one thing was holding us back. Running these browsers on some of the legacy OSs, we're dealing with malware, slow boot up times, pop-ups, things like that. So, another 10x project at Google was, from the ground up, developing an operating system with Chrome OS that not only is looking forward in the future, right, making sure that we can not only make the best of both breeds, right, the browser and the OS, to give you a modern operating system. So we'll talk more about that as we go on. So kind of moving forward, right? The last 10 years, what have we been up to, right? So I'll kind of take you through the landscape here. Is launched Chrome browser 2008, over 1 billion users. Really looked at in 2010, why don't we get a device out there, right? So many of you folks who I met throughout the day were able to get one of the free devices, like the very first generation Chromebook, right? I think it was a really great device. Some folks were still using it, so surprisingly, it's still running, right? Because these devices, they're continue to get automatic updates throughout the years. But we've really been invested in the enterprise. Right? And if you look at what we've been doing, great hardware. We have a line of devices across all our major OEMs. So if you're looking for a device from Dell, Lenovo, HP, right, we have those devices. And we have some at the booth there as well. But we've been invested in VDI as a great start in the enterprise space. So with VDI and partnerships with Citrix and VMware, you're able to launch devices and use VDI to kind of deliver those legacy applications, stream applications, to solve those application needs. So we'll talk more about that as well. More of the investment came in 2015, right? We're now double downing on making sure that on our Chrome devices, you can run great web applications. If you have specific legacy applications, you can run them through VMware or Citrix. But in 2015, we've made it so you can run any Android application on a Chromebook. Right? So what does that mean to you? So you can think about it as, if you hopped on an airplane to get to this event, right, the first thing that you did was you open up your phone, right? And you're on an airplane without any connectivity, but you're accessing a bunch of your applications, whether they're work or whether for entertainment. Those applications will run on a Chromebook. So now we have even more capabilities to run offline applications, right? And now we're just extending that. So in the next 5 years, what we're doing, looking forward to what we're doing with the enterprise is just more enterprise capabilities. More premium devices, right, from HP, Lenovo. I don't know if you caught wind of the Dell partnership that we just launched. And if you listened to John Matson, one of my teammates' presentation yesterday, he might have showcased the new Dell Latitude line, right? Really great hardware. It's going to be available in 50 countries. Allow you to kind of decide what specific specs you may need, whether it's CPU, RAM, or memory. Build it out the way you want, right? So that's a huge investment. And that's kind of where we're headed over the next couple years. But folks, be on the lookout for more integration, right? So if you're using Active Directory, been a lot of investments there. In 2017, we made it so you can actually manage Chrome OS devices in Active Directory. You can join a device into your domain and manage them with group policy. But at the same time, we've been working with a lot of enterprises. They want to kind of manage the devices where they're most comfortable, where they have the most of their entire fleet. So in 2017, we also partnered with major EMM providers, right? So folks like VMware, Workspace, and AirWatch, you can manage Chromebook there, right? You can manage it through IBM Mass 360, Citrix Zen Mobile, right? So now that you're able to not only have a great browser, Chrome OS device that you can manage where you want to, or use Google Cloud Management, we're continuing really just to invest there with new things like capabilities such as Linux containers. So if you don't know, like on a Chromebook before, if you ever wanted to run any kind of Linux utilities or install, you'd have to kind of sacrifice some security, but not anymore. In 2018, we launched the ability to install it, to deploy Linux containers on your OS, right, on a Chromebook. So you can do things like if you're a developer, run Visual Studio Code. Right? So if you're a developer, you have all these great utilities that you couldn't run before, now you can do it on Chrome OS. If you're a DevOps guy or an IT admin, you may have found the need to run Wireshark, for instance. You can actually do that on a Chromebook now, right? Without having to do anything special. So out of the box, all the management capabilities, all the things that we're doing for enterprise, coupled with really great premium hardware, that's kind of where we're headed. That's the North Star. There's a huge investment with Google in that space. That's kind of why we're here today talking to you guys. Right? Make sure everybody's aware of it. Why are we kind of focused in this space, right? And kind of, why Chrome browser? Why, a device that's cloud native, right? Really, it's because, think of how you got here today, right? You may have booked an Uber. You may have used your favorite app, right, over the weekend to stream your favorite movie. All these great web applications that just work on any device, right? Whether you're on a tablet or you're on your TV, you're able to stream music from Spotify. All these great apps. It's making it harder for IT practitioners because people have these great experiences at home, and when they get to work, they're asking for the same quality when they're working, right? So I see some nods, right? So it's making your job harder because, these applications, they work so flawlessly. When you get to work, you want to be able to use the same applications at work while you're there at home because you want to work from anywhere, right? You're probably doing some work, for your corporate environment right here and then, right? So you want to access those same apps seamlessly, whether you're on a phone or a tablet or a Chromebook, right? So, it's pretty clear that we're working from anywhere today. A lot of organizations allow folks to work from home. So it's making your job as IT a lot harder because now you're having to kind of not only manage, those experiences, but you're trying to deliver that in a seamless and easy way. So we feel like the browser is that interface, that portal, right? You log into the browser, and you're going to get access to all your applications, right? So that experience has to be really seamless. It's going to be fast. And so what we're talking about today is a new type of employee. You can say, well, it could be what we call a cloud worker, right? You and I are cloud workers. We probably work 95% of our job is kind of through the web, right? But sometimes you need that native application. And so, trying to understand, these users' needs, whether it's yourself or folks that you guys support, right? That's kind of what we're talking about. It's like, let's try to figure out the right tool for the job, making sure that you have a modern browser or a modern operating system. Because while we're doing all these great things, making sure that you can do your job and people can get to work and be productive, security is number one, right? But from the studies that we're doing, from talking to folks like yourselves, IT teams, they may have a team of 5 or 8, system admins, but they're doing a lot. Like I talked to a gentleman today, and he was telling me like they're doing IT support and help desk. They're also deploying all the applications and opening data centers. The same team, right? So IT has to do a lot more with less to deal with malware, ransomware, phishing, right? And they're getting a lot more sophisticated, right? They're definitely something that you got to deal with. But how do you deal with all of these problems, but at the same time try to deliver a great user experience? We think the best of breed is going to be using a cloud native device that's going to keep itself up to date. It's going to be secure by default. It has encryption built in. It's going to give you the great experience whether you're using the browser or the applications. So we think that's Chrome OS. So we'll talk more about that. So how do you kind of get this rolling in your enterprise, right? We have lots of customers that have gone through this journey, so we're trying to share that with you, right? The first thing that they're going to do, you got to look at what browser are you using. Are you using an updated browser, like Chrome OS or Chrome browser specifically? And if you're using that browser, that's great. So I heard a handful of folks are using Chrome browser in their enterprise, but only half of the folks are managing that, right? So first things first, make sure that you're looking at something like Chrome browser, and then how do you manage that? And so we'll talk about some of the tools that you're used to manage Chrome browser across your fleet. And And then you got to look at your user base, right? Segmentation of the workforce, trying to understand, well, which users kind of live in mostly web and which users actually need some kind of desktop application, right? So now you understand, where your browser's at and what your users need. You're going to go on this journey. So in the next couple of slides, I'm really going to talk to you about some of the solutions that Google has to make your job easier. I mean, it's all about saving yourselves time as IT practitioners. Give time back to your users so they're not dealing with updates and dealing with trying to fix their own computers, right? So giving everybody back time, because that's something you can't buy, right? So if you're not managing your browser, you're really kind of putting your users and your organization at risk. Number one reason, if you're using a browser and you're not managing it, you're not guaranteeing that that browser is getting security updates or patches. So if you're running a browser that's kind of outdated or behind, that's the number one vulnerability there, right? So in terms of just kind of how do you do this at scale, you're going to make sure that you're going to figure out a way to manage Chrome browser. Specifically, we have a great solution out there called Chrome Browser Cloud Management. Really what it's going to do is make your jobs a lot easier. So today, you may be managing IE or Chrome maybe with group policy. But what Chrome Browser Cloud Management allows you to do is if you're managing a fleet of devices, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux, now you can use a cloud management console and manage Chrome browser across all of those devices, get reporting, figure out what users are using, block the things that users shouldn't be using, keeping them safe, but do it all in a really easy-to-use interface, right, using Chrome Browser Cloud Management. So what does it look like? This is kind of our interface here, right? This is using the Google Management Console. You're able to now get visibility across your entire fleet of devices, whether it's Mac, Windows, or Linux. You're not going to need a specialist that knows Jamf for Mac or a specialist for Linux that knows Linux kind of scripting, right? You can use this cloud interface, manage Chrome browser, get all the reporting and insights you need all in this console. It's huge. All of our customers are super excited about this, whether they're a small business or a large enterprise, right? And this is actually something that you can do today, and it's free. It's no cost, right? The other thing is managing applications, right? I think one of the things that people are concerned about when they use Chrome browser is what extensions are good and which extensions are bad, right? So this interface here allows you to at least see all the extensions that folks are using, what applications they're using on Chrome browser. But at a quick click of a button, you can disable this particular application that users shouldn't have, right? But if you find an application that users should have, like Docs, for example, here, you can quickly deploy it across your entire fleet, across Mac, Windows, or Linux. So you're not having to hire any experts in each of these domains. You're going to have these, if you know Windows GPO or Windows IT management group policy, you can do this without any problem. Here's a quick story that I'll kind of share with you. I know we have about 8 minutes, so I'm going to get some Q&A. But I worked with this customer actually directly to deploy all of their Chrome devices, a huge coffee company. They're based in Seattle. You've probably seen them right outside your door here. They deployed Chrome browser and Chrome devices over 10 to maybe 15,000 devices. But they have a mixed environment like everybody does, right? They have Mac, Windows, and Linux. They have power users. They use Citrix as well. But they were looking at a way to kind of simplify, make their jobs easier as IT admins and IT practitioners. So they looked at Chrome Browser Cloud Management, what I just showed you, to now unify the experience of Chrome browser across their entire organization. There's a great video here that if you look for this on YouTube, it's called Manage Chrome Browser from the Cloud. We made this earlier this year at our Google Cloud Next conference. It's going to be our product manager for Google Cloud, Chrome browser, and a gentleman that worked for IT management at Starbucks. Really great guy. I know him personally, Joshua. I would check out that video. It's going to be mind-blowing, kind of what they're doing with Chrome browser. It's so easy to use, but so simple and elegant. So kind of wrapping things up here, right? First, we talked about, hey, first thing you're going to do is figure out, are you managing a browser that's a modern browser? If you're not, you should do that today, whether you're using GPOs or Chrome Cloud Browser Management, right? First, and then the second thing you're going to do is figure out, well, these users, what applications are they using? If they're using mostly web applications, that's great because now they can just use Chrome browser and get access to all of their apps, right? And so this is a great transition because if your users are really primarily using Chrome browser and they're doing a lot of web-based applications, it's a great kind of user base to look at, well, can they use Chrome devices? Why Chrome devices? Because they're cloud native, right? They're built from the ground up to be very easy to manage. You deploy in seconds, right? No provisioning really needed to manage any images or OS updates, right? All of that's taken care of by Google. So a lot of folks here I talked to actually started to use Chrome devices in their organizations because it scales easily, right? You have folks that are in remote offices or field services workers. There's not an IT person in every place in the world, right? To deploy a new device, you have to image it and ship it out. With Chrome devices, you can pick up a Chrome device, activate it within 10 seconds, and it's going to get all the policies, all the applications kind of over the air because Google kind of provides that as our cloud infrastructure. Why do people go to Chrome devices? Really, number two things, security and ease of management, right? You're going to save, like I said, you're going to get back time because you don't have to have managed any antivirus on these things. You don't have to manage the images. You don't have to manage the software updates. You don't have to have storage servers for all of these things. Google takes care of all that. You just use our cloud console to say, hey, when these devices get updated, what applications do users need, and it comes down, kind of like a cloud roaming profile, right? So there's tons of benefits, but there really is security, right? From the ground up, everything's built in from encryption, right? Every user that logs into this device is going to get their own encrypted profile. So you're not spending time installing BitLocker or any other additional encryption software, right? So there's a huge, total cost of ownership benefit to using Chrome devices. We can talk more about it in the Q&A. But how do you do this, right? This really starts with kind of what you do today in your, how do you deploy new applications or even get new technology in? You start with a small work group, right? Maybe a small IT team, and you start to do this pilot, and then you grow that to business users. And that's how a lot of our customers really do that. But the really thing that really is the most successful is they identify like a simple use case, and they start from there. So it's more of like a land and expand. Figure out who uses cloud apps, maybe start with them. Another popular use case is loaner devices. If a user at Google forgot their device, they can just walk up to a rack of Chrome devices, grab it. When they log in, instantly all of their applications, all their profile comes down, right? Because it's cloud native. Right? So a lot of our customers actually start with this use case. So it's called grab and go or a loaner device. And they'll deploy that. And then a great place to start because not only if a user can grab a device and check it out themselves, but when they check it back in, they fill out a survey that says, hey, you know what? I can do 90% of my job on a Chromebook, but the one or two things I couldn't do, the IT team takes that information back and fine-tunes the application deployment and deploy Chromebooks to more users. That's one way to do it. I think for field services, I talked about that earlier. I mean, super popular use case. You can be in the field, use Chrome devices that have LTE capability, connect over the air, get access to your infrastructure, your applications. But if the device gets missing or lost or stolen, you don't have to send an IT person out there to provision a new device or reimage. You can buy one off the shelf at your brick and mortar store, log in, and you'll be up and running again. So that's another great place to start. Like a room full of you guys here, if we were to do a training session, imagine how hard it would be to take like a full-fledged OS like Windows or Mac and like image that just for this training session, right, to do a demo. It'd be a lot of work. All I would need to do for using Chromebooks would be 10 seconds each to get them all activated, and then everything will come down. But I don't have to re-image or do any kind of process to kind of repurpose them right for the next event. They self-wipe, remotely manage. I can remotely disable these devices if they go missing. So a lot of capabilities there. To really kind of round about, this is kind of what it looks like. You can use the cloud console to manage all your devices around the world, right? Like I said, you can remotely disable them, report on them, really do all the things that you need to do from my IT management perspective, but not have to hire extra folks or take a bunch of certifications, right? You can do this today. Like if you know GPOs, you know how to do group policy, this is just kind of like easy transition for you folks there. But like I said here, you don't have to use Google Cloud. You can kind of manage where you want to. Workspace ONE, you can manage Chrome devices. You can use Citrix, Cisco Meraki, or you can manage them directly in AD and have these Chromebooks sit right into your Active Directory users and computers and use GPO management. IDPs, right? So logging into Chrome device, that's the first thing you need is logging in. You can log in with your Active Directory credentials or Google credentials. You choose your way you want to kind of manage your identity. You can use Active Directory credentials to log in and use domain credentials like Kerberos and get access to all the things you need there. So it's super flexible. You can choose how you want to manage, what identity you want to use, or you can take advantage of all the kind of things that we just talked about. And you have your selection of enterprise-grade devices. So in a nutshell, lots of customers are already moving to Chrome browser and using Chrome OS devices. This is a slide of a handful of them. Some folks like Mercado Libre here, they started with Windows workstations, right? They said have a bunch of Windows workstations that are still great, So they're using Neverware with this a partner of ours to deploy Chrome OS on them, but they'll manage these Windows workstations that are running Chrome OS using their cloud management, right? Now today they're expanding more and using it for a call center use case and deploying Chrome devices. But there's lots of organizations here. We have Charles Schwab Financial Services. You walk into Charles Schwab and you open an account, you're going to be sitting down next to someone on a couch probably, working on a Chromebook, maybe filling out your account in a secure kind of stateless mode. And then the Schwab employee can actually access Citrix or VDI to access all the different applications they need to, right? So you get different user experiences and service experiences out of Chromebooks as well. So lots of different customers here you can take a look at when you have some more time. You can get started today. We actually have an online kind of trial flow. You can activate this in 2 minutes, get access to all the things I talked about. I know we're kind of end of time. We have a guide to kind of really help you kind of get started on your own. We also have experts in the room here from Augusto and some other folks from Google to take some questions. But I want to say thank you again for your time. We have some time for Q&A. I know we're going to stay after to take some questions, but really, your cloud journey really starts with a browser and then figuring out what users need and then getting them on like something like a cloud-native device like Chrome OS. Right? So once again, really appreciate everyone's time. I know we have some desserts and beverages out there, but feel free to kind of stay and visit our booth at number 47 for some of the questions you may have. Thank you.